those who don't use your college degree, what did you major in? Story 1. Up until I was in college, I always thought that my mom majored in chemistry because she's an analytical chemist at a pharmaceutical company. Then I was struggling with a physics class, and she casually mentions, yeah, physics can be tough to get at first, but it's pretty fun once you get the hang of it. That's why I majored in it after all. My whole life was a lie. Story 2. Only 27 of college grads have a job that has to do with their major. Source. So it's not really that big of a deal. College degrees are generally more a signal to employers that you are intelligent and teachable. Obviously, not a perfect signal, but still an easy way to distinguish people. Most jobs don't require you to use very specific knowledge learned in college. They just want to know that you are smart enough to learn quickly on the job. Story 3. I majored in economics and political science. After I graduated, I worked in film production for about 6 years. Since then, I've worked in IT consulting as an account executive. Story 4. Sociology major. Got out of school and started doing web design. Eventually I transitioned into user experience design, and now social research is part of the design job. My major became an asset by accident. Story 5. Music performance. It actually really killed my passion for music. I was so burned out by the time I got out of there. I now work in very unrelated fields that requires no degrees but some specialized training. I am way happier, and now music is becoming my hobby again. Story 6. I hold a degree in economics and business and am now a stay-at-home dad. 3 years ago, I left a career in marketing brand management and haven't looked back. Story 7. I studied physics in a major research university and had numerous research experiences in a number of physics subfields. I now run a VR company, majored in computer science, then went straight to work as an infantry officer. To show the correlation between the two, my boss asked if I know how to excel. But I love both my job and my degree, and I still code for fun in my off time. Story 8. Petroleum engineering. I'm unemployed, going back to school to get a minor in energy, business, and finance in hopes that things look back up soon. If not, in getting a second major in environmental systems engineering. Pro tip: don't specialize too much in engineering, especially in a really commodity market. Story 9. I majored in business. I am now a lawyer. Some might assume I used what I learned, but I honestly cannot remember a single thing from my undergrad business classes. Nothing. I sometimes have reviewed accounting documents like balance sheets and cash flow statements, and aside from recognizing their form, I barely recall how they function or how to really evaluate them. Story 10. Finance major here. I'm a photographer now. The degree helped me run the business, but I could have figured out that part. The hard part is the customer service and the networking. Story 11. English degree. Now I'm a copywriter and I do concept art, character and environmental design for indie games. My English degree is useless honestly for all these things, even copywriting, since it's all very informal and has different rules. But I only have another 2K until the student loans are paid off. Oh yes. Story 12. Political science and history. I can't say I directly apply it. That's tough to do unless you want to teach or go into politics. But I absolutely use it and have sold the skills it helped me develop to employers. After university, I took a few licensing courses and found a decent job in insurance within few weeks that I probably wouldn't have got over the competition without the degree. A few years later, that turned itself into a great career that really interests me. Most recently, I started working on a professional designation that requires a degree as a prerequisite. Basically, when interviewers asked why a history poli-sci degree or how it was useful, I explain all the skills it honestly helped me build: strong writing and reading comprehension, analytical skills, critical thinking, ability to bullshit, ability to work in groups and make presentations, time management skills, ability to manage projects, things like that. An undergraduate degree is just a stepping stone for a lot of young people these days unless you're wise enough to take something directly employable like engineering. It's not a free ticket to a job, but it certainly helps in my experience. Still, if my kids go to college, I'll encourage them to take something more employable, or consider a good trade program. Story 13. Philosophy. But it's hard to really say that I use it or don't use it. Let's start by discussing what it means to use a degree, then we can talk about how a degree in philosophy is or isn't different from other degrees, and then we can discuss. Story 14. Game art. The industry is saturated too, so if my portfolio isn't Blizz quality, I don't stand a chance. Can't even get an entry-level position, let alone an internship, and it's really hard to network while living in Wisconsin. Now I'm stuck with crippling debt, working 2 jobs just to keep my head above water, having no time to even improve my portfolio. Story 15. Majored in religion. I teach English now. I don't regret it. I found the subject fascinating, and unless you are on a very specific path, med school, law school, etc., I recommend majoring in what you find genuinely interesting. That piece of paper is going to get you ahead, regardless of what it's in. Story 16. I have BS degrees in both computer science and business administration, with minors in science and economics, plus about 3/4 of an MBA. I work as an electrical engineer. My own experience is that your degree is not nearly as important as your attitude towards work. I have dug ditches to feed my family. And I outworked the rest of the laborers on that job to be the best ditch digger out there, and got a promotion to foreman based on my work ethic and ability to get things done and not my education. When a job opened in computers, I moved up to programmer. Then when something broke, I went out into the field to fix it. It wasn't always software that broke, so I learned electronics on my own, Whatever you do, make yourself valuable to your employer and you will have a job. It may not be the job you would like to have, but that will come. Story 17. I graduated with a journalism degree. Never worked a single day in journalism. Wouldn't want to anymore, either many reasons. Instead I rolled into IT roles without any degrees or certs. Turns out personal experience is actually worth something to the right employer. As well, no regrets. Story 18. Went to college and spent a stupid amount of money on a shitty school and now have crippling debt for graphic design. Got a job at a call center and then moved to a different position where I am now and make double the money of my old position. I monitor files all night long and make more money than almost all of my friends from college. I love my job but plan on trying to go back to school for network security. Story 19. I have a degree in history specializing in Russian, and a minor in archaeology and anthropology. I wanted to be Indiana Jones. Instead I'm a sales rep. Story 20. Graduated from a one-year IT school. The certifications such as A and NET are worth the real value, not the diploma from that school. Actually it was kind of a scam. 34% of the students dropped out or did not finish, because the learning was 95% independent study, so you really had to have initiative. Story 21. I studied a BSc Actuarial Science undergrad and I ended up working for a bank in risk. I don't really use any of the actuarial math stuff that I did on campus. I've always wanted to do something like architecture though, just to throw a curveball in there. Story 22. Nanoscience. I used to do research, but now the only time my degree gets use is over at Raskshans. I compose music for a living now, and cook part-time. Story 23. I majored in political science and German. I've since had a long career in accounting, for which I didn't get relevant qualifications until 10 years in. Even sillier, this was in Australia where I could have just done a 3-year business or commerce degree if I wanted to be an accountant. I instead did arts law and didn't even finish the law component, although I think I definitely learned a lot of useful stuff from the law subjects. Accountants pay attention to the business law subjects. Story 24. Exercise science. The dream was to become a physical therapist and specialize in hippotherapy. After I got my bachelor's degree I got pregnant and grad school was no longer a reality. I worked as a research tech for a few years, then in offices. When my son got older I worked for a university, earned 2 graduate degrees, their free tuition benefit, and am now an operations director. Being a single mom was hard, caused me to change my plans, but it was worth it. Story 25. I have a creative writing degree, which is why I work for FedEx. I knew my major wouldn't make me much money, but I had been in college for 6 years already. I found out that I was surprisingly good at writing, so I changed my major so that I'd graduate faster. Story 26. Microbiology MSc here. I was going to be a science teacher but that fell through, and in the process of getting another placement sorted, I got a temp job in IT. I am now a senior developer and can code in about 4 languages. Story 27. Nuclear engineering. Found work in my field for a while, but the hours and bureaucracy was ridiculous. I lay hot tar and asphalt on public roads now along with other odd jobs. Our team last year consisted of a biochemist, me, and a gentleman that held a Ph.D. in the Spanish language. Good lesson in never judging a book. Story 28. Communication major with a focus on race, gender and sexuality. Let's be real, there was a 0% chance that was going to equal a job. I do sales with a bunch of the broiest white dudes ever. Story 29. Generally, that degree just helps you get the first job. How you perform at that job is what gets you the next job. At that point it doesn't matter if you dropped out of 3rd grade. A degree was required for my first sales job, but it could have been any degree. I'm now president of a corporation, but only because of my work ethic and results. My business degree is irrelevant. Story 30. While I agree that college degrees are not particularly useful sometimes, it's hard to deny that any education in whatever field you choose would not be beneficial in some way, shape, or form. Whether it allows you to communicate more effectively, gain experience with complex subjects, think more abstractly, etc., a college degree is valuable. I think it's easy to fall into the trap of being nostalgic for the 60s, 70s, 80s where you could do pretty well with just a high school diploma, but with the hyper-educated population nowadays you just can't be as competitive, even if it may seem for jobs unrelated to the course of study. I agree though that college is insanely expensive and real-world experience could help you just as well. Just thought I'd remind you that it's not all completely wasted time, I think. Story 31. I feel like I use my major, just not in the classic sense, BS in mathematical physics, but went straight to law school, always had inkling towards law, ESP litigation, in HS, always loved science though, so knowing pre-law is bullshit, went into physics. After first year of undergrad, decided I was going to get my BS degree and go straight into law school, graduated in 3 years then went to law school, was a lawyer 6 years out of HS. I do almost entirely patent litigation and have my entire career, and my science background, although not extensive, is very helpful in what I do and certainly helped me get where I am today. Science degrees are coveted for patent lit, so it helped me get lawyer jobs, probably more so than anything else. Definitely no regrets on the mathematical physics degree. It made up for the crappy law school I went to. For a few years I was at an uber prestigious law firm that would never in a million years hire a grad from my school, all because of my undergrad degree. Even the top student from my law school in any given year couldn't get hired at a firm with half the prestige of this one. but I did and really think it was all because the sexiness of mathematical physics and science background usefulness for patent litigation. I don't make that kind of money anymore, but I have my own practice that owes itself to connections from that firm, so really the smartest decisions I ever made were getting a mathematical physics degree and becoming a lawyer. Pro tip: you want to be a lawyer and give yourself a leg up on jobs, get a BS STEM degree, then go to law school. Even if you don't want to do anything IP related, employers will think you are smarter than the English major lawyer, even if you really aren't. Even if you do personal injury, science background will help, and for IP you'll be coveted, and no, you don't have to do god-awful boring patent prosecution. But if you like that sort of thing, you can make great consistent money. Story 32. I graduated with an English major about 2 years ago, although I was also pre-med at the time. I loved writing, which is why I did the major, but after a long period soul-searching I found I wanted to be a nurse. Now I'm taking prereqs for a master's in nursing, although I'll settle for another bachelor's degree. If I do make it big as an author, then maybe I'll have used the English degree, haha. Story 33. Physics major. I work in agricultural research now because of what I did before I got the degree. I still teach university physics labs part-time to keep my toe in it though. Story 34. Majored in criminology, but as it turns out getting into investigative work is not easy. I'm about to start schooling to get my teaching credentials so I can teach history social science in high school. I worked in sales customer service for a year, but it's not for me. I can't be okay with trying to squeeze money out of people. I want to actually do something good for society, rather than be a cutthroat businessman. Story 35. Vet technology. Vet tech degree. There's no full-time jobs to be had, the pay is abysmal, the job market is flooded by cheap unqualified 16-year-olds. When you do manage to get a job, vet surgeries run on the barest possible profit margins. Pet owners are always trying to get out of paying for necessary things. It's just emotionally draining. To be fair, I worked in a series of small surgeries in poor areas, YMMV. Story 36. Came here expecting to see communications. Instead found a lot of physics, computer science, and engineering, so I'm doing okay, I guess. I'll frame that degree eventually. Story 37. I think in general people misunderstand the purpose of college. It isn't necessarily a vocational training center, though it can be used as such to a certain extent. It's really about becoming more educated, more knowledgeable, and educationally well-rounded. It's also about gaining real-world skills like being able to sit down and finish a project, and working on your own away from your parents. It's about organization and following through, and dealing with when it gets tough or over your head. College is a microcosm of the real world, and going there every day for 4 years will help you to function in the real world. This doesn't mean that you should study art history when you want to be a programmer, but having a math degree may be as, or more, helpful than a computer science degree. College is what you make of it, and once you have a degree the job market is what you make of it as well within reason. Yes, I'm aware that geographically speaking for some people the job market just sucks. I wish I had done college when I was 20 instead of doing it now when I'm 40. There are skills I've learned, from writing skills to organizational skills, that would have put me much farther ahead in my career had I obtained them years ago. If you have the opportunity to go to college, do so, and make the most of the experience. The bottom line is, even if you're not working in the field you studied, your resume is still more attractive than a person without the degree. Story 38. Computer engineering. Now I'm a doctor. I feel like the engineering background was still a great choice. It made undergrad much more interesting, as I never really cared for biology, etc. Beyond that, the problem-solving skills I developed as an engineer are helpful in my current career. Story 39. Criminology with psychology. I have 2 jobs now. I run a business with my partner, and then I work doing freelance work too. I can go to work and do my other work, which is cool. I had wanted to help young people who get in trouble with the law because I know they can turn their lives around. By the end of the course, I thought it would be too depressing. I still learned transferable skills that I use today at work, and part of my work is helping people. Story 40. English. It's the degree you take when you are told you should go to uni, so you just pick something you're good at. There are some people who are passionate about it and follow it for years as an academic subject, but they are in the 10 range. Most of us just didn't know what else to do and figured something would turn up. It didn't. Story 41. Did electrical engineering, circuit design. Ended up a software engineer who spends 90% of time on Reddit or acting as a glorified IT guy. Plan to go back to EE and get my master's because I don't like my job, and I'd rather be solving actual problems than figuring out why a data stage job failed because of an extra white space. Story 42. English. I wanted to go into publishing. That industry died between 2009 and 2013, so now I'm in social media for a modeling agency. It hurts my soul every day what's happened to the sanctity of language. How beautiful stories are lost in stacks of manuscripts, and 50 Shades of Grey is the most popular book in the world. And I'm stuck tweeting about Fashion Week. Story 43. Control F. Search major. Not here, relief or here. Panic probably going to be a common action. Edit more scenarios and comment below made me clarify. Story 44. BS and MS in engineering. I don't work as an engineer because I was promoted to program manager for doing such a good job at my engineering position. I'm sorry, was that not what you meant? Story 45. I majored in earth science and am currently getting a degree in student affairs. I'm halfway through this master's degree and I already want to go back for another one. Story 46. Finance. It's not a bad degree at all. Definitely a lot more quantitative and leverageable than business, but I learned that I hated corporate finance. I taught myself SQL and have now been doing database developing for the last year. Story 47. I have a BA in philosophy. I was going to go to grad school and get my PhD, but I didn't. I work at a vet clinic now and am going to school to be a veterinary technician. Animals are cool, and I still get to be philosophical every once in a while about animal rights and stuff. My coworkers all roll their eyes when that starts though. Story 48. Anthropology. Fortunately, a lot of people have no idea what it really is and think that it is really impressive, even though the whole thing was pretty easy. Story 49. Majored in physics with a minor in mathematics and did research in astrophysics with the Chandra X-ray Observatory. I do programming and analysis now. Story 50. Government major. Do absolutely nothing government related. Luckily I shotgunned my resume all over Austin. One company took a chance on a kid at 22 years old, gained a ridiculous amount of relevant experience and left that company and now have a very good job and am being promoted at new company after only 1 year. If you are given the opportunity, take advantage of everything there is to learn at where you are hired. Edit worked at first job for 4 years. Story 51. 15 years ago I majored in psychology and creative writing and literature. I have never worked in a field related to either. Currently I work as a CNA 500 for class, then took a test in a large hospital, and plan to attend nursing school in a year. Just say no to psychology, unless you plan to immediately get a master's degree or PhD. Story 52. I majored in marine biology but now I'm in medical school. I did the major mostly for fun and quickly realized that I would most likely be doing algae research rather than fancy dolphin work if I were to go into the field. Story 53. Majored in human resource management and now appraise real estate for a living. Learned to work with people and now I value structures. My coworker got his degree in marine biology, so at least I'm not that guy. Story 54. Bachelor's of Science in early childhood education with a specialization in special ed. To top it off, I also graduated from a private university that cost $30 to $35K a year, and yes, I absolutely regret it. Story 55. Bachelor of Interactive Entertainment, majoring in game design. Video game industry is super unstable even though I did well as a designer programmer, so now I'm making much more money as an IT specialist software developer. Sometimes I feel like a sellout, other times I look at my bank account and the ability to support me and my girlfriend. Story 56. My major is labor studies, basically labor union stuff. Not many labor unions anymore unfortunately, so I'm just a bureaucrat financial analyst, using my master's degree, MBA in marketing. Oh wait a minute. Story 57. I studied geological hazards to bachelor's. First year was jading when they covered all the basics of geology and anything even loosely related to it, but it picked up and was really interesting when we finally focused on the hazards themselves, their developments, management and monitoring techniques. I could have gone on with it, but it felt I was pursuing an interest rather than a career path which, despite the student debt, I'm okay with. Story 58. I have a paralegal degree from Boston University. I'm a server. No one wants to pay a paralegal their appropriate salary. I worked as a legal secretary but the pay stinks and they assume you to do the work of both. I don't answer phones. Story 59. Majored in biobehavioral health at Penn State. Originally planned to go to medical school but decided last minute it wasn't for me. Graduated in 2007 and couldn't find a job. So I became a stockbroker in NYC. I wanted to work for a big bank but no one would hire me without experience, so I joined a new brokerage firm and decided to work my way up. Found out I am pretty good at sales and became manager at my firm. Luckily I didn't join a big firm because of the market crash in 2008. I didn't have any clients when the market tanked and a lot of the other brokers' financial advisors lost their clients a ton of money, so it wasn't hard to capture clients if you were able to pitch yourself and a good idea. In 2009, made a ton of money, opened my own branch of a firm for a while, now I'm in corporate sales. Story 60. Maybe a slight twist. I have a degree in marketing and work as a marketing manager. When I say I don't use my degree, it's that my degree isn't in anything. Marketing is a preposterous major. On the first day of my first marketing class the professor told us about the 4 Ps, which are product, price, place and promotion. Therein lies the only thing I learned in 4 years and 60K. An accounting degree lets you maybe become a CPA, but you could probably still land a marketing job, as there is basically no trade secret that I know and you do not. Major in finance and go work for the bank, or write promo copy and design flyers and emails almost anywhere. You could get a job in marketing with any other business degree. If I got anything out of my degree, it's how to write persuasively, or how to present something I know is garbage in front of a crowd, or how to manage time. I took a minor for shits and giggles because my major was so dumb. If you are shitty at math and want to have a business degree and a good social life in college, go for marketing. Other than that, your money is probably better spent elsewhere. Story 61. I majored in English translation. I live in Poland with minor in Arabic translation. I'm a stock photographer and illustrator. Story 62. International politics and diplomacy with a minor in economics in college. Now I'm a quality engineer at a plastic injection molding company. This is mainly due to having experience in aircraft and satellite fabrication and engineering before and right after college. I would love to work in my field, but it can be difficult to have the needed flexibility when you're married. I still like to read up on things though. Story 63. Seriously, no philosophy majors, no Asian studies majors. though I did immediately move to Japan after graduation, and have lived for a decade here now, so there's that. Story 64 had to quit school because of finances, moved for more job opportunity, unemployed for 4 months, was on track to get a degree in journalism with a minor in philosophy, did 5 years, considering IT and tech as a career path but not sure how to make that transition. Story 65 I majored in history. I now work as an operations manager within industry. I've actually found it oddly applicable. Studying history teaches you the importance of learning from the mistakes of the past, and you also learn about a lot of different leaders, their characteristics and individual styles, what worked and did not work. I have found that to be very transferable knowledge. Story 66 Marketing Communications. Turns out my program was a basics to Fortune 500 marketing, and not the fancy title they gave it. I got sold by a marketing class on subpar product by their clever marketing. Story 67 International Relations and a Certificate of Chinese Studies. I was too lazy to study for the Foreign Services Officers test, so I haven't taken it yet. I work in hospitality management. Story 68 Fine Arts, but specifically sculpture. Halfway through my program I realized that it wasn't for me, but I finished because I had no idea what else I would study, and I knew that having a college degree was better than not. I currently work in non-profit fundraising. Story 69 Political Science major. Graduated college and went into logistics supply chain, handled domestic and international transportation of material for a large American truck manufacturer for a couple years and just changed companies a few months ago and took a job as a supply chain analyst. Story 70 I went to college for journalism, am now a carpenter. It seems like school was a huge waste at this point. I'm making more than most of my friends with university degrees. I went to college because it seemed like the thing to do at the time, all my friends were going, and I wanted to join the party. It was a terrible decision, perhaps the worst I've ever made, and I still regret it almost every day. Story 71 Not me personally, but I was about 2.5 years into a psych degree when I moved apartments. I had new internet and the cable guy was hooking it up. I had my textbooks on the table and he saw one and said, neuroscience, I have my master's degree in neuroscience. Me deadpan stare, well then why are you hooking up my internet? And he said, well, I did well, got out of school, got a job, and then after a short while I realized I can't stand working with crazy people. I just couldn't do it, so I quit my job and became a cable guy. This really struck a chord with me. In my min I was like, so that thing that you do where you spend 3 hours putting a friend brain back together, do you want to do that 9 to 5 for the next 40 years for people you don't actually care about? So I dropped out and went to jewelry design school. Zero regrets. I love psychology and still study it on my own a lot, but not enough to make it my life's work. TLDNR shadow someone at the job you want before you spend 4 years or more toward a job you might like the idea of it, but not the actual practice of. Story 72 I wanted to be a mechanical engineer all through high school, so I applied to a bunch of colleges, universities, and went to one for mechanical engineering. I did it for a year, and wasn't too happy. This was around 2001, and patriotism and such nudged me to joining the USMC. I did that for 4 years, got out, and went back to school for product design development. I earned a BS in 2010, and by then the job market was ruined for people in my position, fresh college graduates with little job experience. I moved around the country doing various jobs, but nothing related to my degree. The market was flooded with people who can do what I wanted to do, but with much more experience. I'm 32 and going to school for the 3rd time in 15 years for another BS in marine engineering technology. It's going to be harder than I realized. My first BS didn't require a lot of math science classes. Bad idea because I haven't had any math chem physics classes since high school, which was 15 years ago. I'm the old guy in class, and don't really talk to anyone except the profs, teachers, TAs who are my age and don't really relate. It's going to be rough, but if I make it through the next 3 years I hope to have a good paying job in the maritime industry. TLDR my BS in product design development never really did much for me. Story 73 I am a chemical engineering graduate who works for a financial software company. I don't code much, and primarily work on the functional side, interacting with clients. Towards the end of my degree, I started to realize I had much more passion for the integration of business and technology than a true engineering type of role in the oilchem farm industries. Story 74 I got suckered into the 2 years degree program, my fault for the community college I go to. I have an AAS and I wanted to continue my education, but half the classes I took won't transfer. Story 75 I have a friend who's got a major in anthropology, but decided to open up a coffee shop instead. It's some good coffee too, and just now going into school for architecture. I wonder if he'll wind up as a broadcaster or video game designer. Passions seem to trump degrees in this thread. Story 76 Oh, can I answer please? Mother of 3 college graduates and a current student. My oldest now lives with me. Why? As a junior she was accepted into upper division nursing school. Guess what? She changed her mind and got a history degree. Yep, no teaching certificate to go with it, just the history degree. Basically she now works as an office assistant after stints at call centers for places like Dell. It's been a tough road for her. My father had a history degree, but was a teacher. I once worked at a bank where the VP had a history degree, so I know it's possible to find the employment she wants. It's just not an easy road. Story 77 Growing up, I thought I would naturally be an engineer or scientist or astronaut science specialist. Let a kid dream. Undergrad degree was nominally electrical engineering, but that field is so big that it can mean a lot of things. my concentration was more on the math side signal processing, then got a PhD. In speech processing, a mashup of statistics, linguistics, computer science, and signal processing, I now work for a math education company. About half my time is spent teaching math and programming, and the other half am doing administrative stuff for the school. Very little Fourier analysis is involved. Bottom line, I've always liked math and science, but instead of continuing in research, I realized I like making kids smarter even more and passing on my enjoyment of math. Story 78. I think that everyone uses their college degree to an extent, maybe just not in your current profession, but education sticks with you. Do you get that joke that Bugs Bunny just made? It's a reference to Shakespeare that you learn in college. I bet if you think about it, you use your college education many times a day. Story 79. I majored in French literature and started an Italian degree. I went from being a French teacher, which was not for me, to a tour guide. Then I met a sales manager who needed administrative help, and 8 years later, I'm the information system manager of this company, and the technical manager of a business intelligence project for a medium-sized group. I learned SQL, VBC, ABAP, among other things, so this comment may be late, but there's always hope. Story 80. BA Linguistics. It was my third change of majors, and I only picked it because it has a short completion time for me. My first major had included a lot of linguistics credits. Spent about 6 years figuring out I wasn't going to get anywhere in retail, then went for HVAC. Now 6 years in, I'm still paying off both rounds of school. Story 81. History Philosophy. That said, I never expected to work in a professional field that has anything to do with either of those. I just did it because it was fun. I was reasonably good at both. I now work at sport event organizing committees, e.g., Olympic Games, Commonwealth Games, F1, etc., temporary contracts lasting 1 to 2 years each. I sucked at PE completely and failed every single PE test. I also hate doing sports, go figure. Story 82. Oh God, I am currently studying landscape architecture and thinking about quitting because if I want to find at least a somewhat decent paying position I am and my skills worthless. It depresses me, because I don't exactly know what else to study. I love designing, making stuff, and problem solving. I am not sure if heavy math is my thing and if I can handle it. Was thinking about doing civil engineering, mechanical engineering, management engineering because it seems more universal, but I fear I fail and waste even more years. Choosing a career path drives me crazy. I am so scared about my future. I am getting suicidal thoughts because of it. Story 83. Maybe not a typical response here, but mechanical engineering, my title and my job actually has engineer in it, but that still doesn't change the fact that I don't feel like I'm using my major at all. Story 84. I didn't see it elsewhere, so here goes. I have a BA in secondary education with an emphasis on social studies. I wanted to be a teacher, but I couldn't student teach because life kicked me square in the when it happened. Anyway, I now work for a bare bones hourly rate in a casino doing setup, tear down, and janitorial. Not a great gig, but it's a living. Still trying and applying for better jobs every now and again though. Story 85. I think if you get a degree and actually try to learn instead of just focusing on grades, your degree will be useful even if you don't work in the same field as your major. The skills you learn, analytical thinking, communication, dealing with deadlines, solving problems during your college degree will help you your whole life. I did computer science and had to take philosophy, psychology, chemistry, physics, etc., and I don't use those subjects directly in programming, but I don't think the time I spent on those subjects went to waste. Learning is always good. Never stop learning. Don't learn just to get a piece of paper. Learn because you want to learn something. Story 86. Music composition. I work in IT. I keep saying one day I'll use my degree for something, but if anything, I don't regret the knowledge I obtained. I kinda just want to be in a rock band, if that's considered using the degree.